Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of Regalytics. Here's your update of the week's 28,740 alerts. Yes, it's a record. Yes, my alert viewing time took longer than normal. Yes, the state legislatures are in session. The regulator of the week is the FTC. As you know, they're working on this whole non-compete rule, and it hit the Federal Register, so the clock is ticking. You have until March 20th to comment. But that didn't stop them from nailing Prudential Security, which is actually a personal security company like security guards, from forcing their employees to have a non-compete clause. And I thought, why is the Federal Trade Commission getting so heavily involved in this whole non-compete thing in the first place? I mean, technically, shouldn't this be like a labor and employment thing, like the Department of Labor or something? But then I read it and I get it. What happened is that these security guards were paid minimum wage and told that if they left their employment, they were not allowed to work for a competing security guard company for 100 miles within where they lived. And if they did, the company was going to go after them for $100,000 in damages. And of course, barely any of these minimum wage security guards negotiated anything. And when a competitor came along and offered a bunch of these security guards better pay and better hours, well, they decided to leave. And the company sued them for leaving. And this is where it makes sense. The competitor went to the FTC and said, hey, this is totally unfair competition. How can we compete with the security guard company if they're hoarding all of the supply of security guards at a reduced price? So anyway, that is the reason the FTC is all over this. It's an unfair competitive advantage. The FTC also busted Pyrex for claiming to be made in the US when, honestly, most of the glass is made in China. Again, unfair. You claim your product is special because it's made in the US, but if it's not true, then you're defrauding your consumers. And finally, the FTC went after LASIK Plus for putting out ads that claimed that you could get an eye surgery for under $300 when, in all honesty, only 6.5% of the customers actually qualified for the program. This is called a bait and switch, and it's also not cool, and LASIK Plus is paying $1.2 million of a fine. The topic of the week, again, is just the state bills. There are so many. Over 13,000 rule-related alerts from the states again. Over 9,000 of them were bills from state legislatures, and of those 9,000 rule changes, 8,000 were new bills put on the table. Connecticut is the winner this week with 1,399 new bills. New York and Hawaii were clocking in at over 1,200. It's insane. Weed is a big deal. Climate is a big deal. Diversity and inclusion is a big deal. Abortion is a big deal. On weed odor and probable cause for police is on the docket. So Connecticut proposed that police officers can use the odor of cannabis as a basis for a vehicle stop, whereas Missouri is trying to prohibit the odor of marijuana alone to be probable cause for a search. Similarly, opposite, which is an oxymoron, Texas wants to ban any sort of economic and tax incentives towards abortion. Meanwhile, New York is proposing the Abortion Access Fund. Keep in mind these are all just proposed bills. Whether or not they pass will remain to be seen. Last few alerts if you've been under a rock. Sam-Bankman Fried from FTX got formally charged by the SEC, and so has the CEO and CTO of Alameda Research. Also interesting, but less known, the SEC busted Bloomberg for misleading users of their securities pricing data. Bloomberg claims to use complex algorithms and experts to come up with a price when in actuality, some of them can just be the quote of a single broker. The fine for these misleading statements is $5 million. Last but not least, the U.S. Virgin Islands legalized weed just in time for spring break. And that's it this week for Regalytics. Join me every Wednesday for your dose of regulatory news.